Evet, Cihan Hocam burada mısınız? Hala.
Buradayım hocam.
Evet hocam, söz sizde.
Teşekkür ederim hocam. Hepinize iyi öğlen sonraları. Sunuma başlayayım değil mi hocam? Onu mu istemiştiniz?
Başlayabilirsiniz evet hocam.
Tamam. Evet.
Sunumu İngilizce olarak yapıyoruz.
Tamam. Teşekkür ederim. Hello everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Cihan Çobanoğlu. It's a privilege for me to be here with you. So from Florida, it's early morning here, and I wish I could be in Mardin to be with you in person. But hopefully, one of these days, when everything goes back to normal, I will be happy to do that. So without further ado, I would like to share my screen with you. And I hope that you can see my presentation here. So again, thank you for inviting me to the International Mesopotamia Tourism Congress and as one of the invited speakers. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and get started with my presentation. Because of course, the conference's focus on cultural and religious tourism, and my research and teaching area is technology. So I would like to combine that together in this particular speech. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, so please let me know right into the chat, and I'll be happy to do it. Again, I am McKibben Endowed Chair Professor. Also, I'm serving as the Dean of the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management in the MoMA College of Business at the University of South Florida. And I also direct a research center called M3 Center. So without going into my presentation, I would like to share some of the things that M3 Center, which again, I am serving as the director, the things that they are doing. So maybe some of it might be interesting to some of the audience. First of all, M3 Center publishes 4 now, not 3, 4 open access journals. 2 open access journals, 100% free to publish, submit, or access the articles. So you see the list here, Journal of Global Business Insights. You can get the information either from this website, or you can go to m3center.org and click on publication. You'll be able to access it. So I would like to invite everybody to submit a paper. They are not unfortunately yet indexed in SSCI or Scopus, but we are working on it. And then again, this is our new journal, Journal of Global Hospitality and Tourism. And also we have another journal, which is brand new, Journal of Mediterranean Tourism Research, which just published the first issue. And again, I invite all of you to submit papers to those. Also, the M3 Center has what we call MOOC, Massive Online Open Course. So these are available, courses that are open to public, free of charge. One of them is Post-Crisis Hospitality Management. This was actually created last year, still is there. Again, it's free of charge. And also, you will see that we have other courses, such as crowdsourcing for researchers, like using Mechanical Turk to collect data, survey research. If you are interested, you can go, again, it's free course, Emerging Trends in Global Services, Creating Value, or we have 2 new courses. One of them is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Workplace, and the other one is Ethical and Inclusive Leadership Certificate Program. Again, all of them are free of charge, so feel free to take advantage of them if you wish. Again, now let's get back to my presentation. The topic of today, the role of technology in cultural and religious tourism. With any kind of presentation that I start that has the word technology, I always like to define what technology is, because technology can mean different things to many different people. As far as I'm concerned, and for this presentation, technology is defined as any skill, tool, process, or way of doing anything better, faster, more efficient, cheaper, and or more sustainable. So from that perspective, when you think about it, please think from that perspective. So in 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic, we, the M3 Center at the University of South Florida, has conducted some think tanks around the world. And these think tanks wanted to bring people together, and we wanted to think about the future of hospitality industry and tourism industry. And as I said, we have done one in October 2018 in Vietnam. It was part of a conference. And similarly, we had another one in New York, and then we had one in Cyprus in 2019. And on top of the think tanks, these three think tanks that we have done, we invited industry professionals and also the academicians, researchers. We also have done a global Delphi study because the think tanks only reach only so many people, so we want to get it more people as well. And Delphi study is a study where you ask people open-ended questions about the trends, issues in hospitality and tourism in the future, 2030 or beyond. And then, as you can see, we have received all of this. This is actually from the list that we have, and we had some researchers, independent researchers, have coded them into. You can see here, cultural tourism is one of them, as you can see, and then we then put it on alternative tourism as one, family tourism. So this is how we did this study. So we combined everything together, the think tanks and also the Delphi study that included everybody from all different stakeholders, the industry people, the managers, employees, students, academicians, even the tourists, general tourists. So what you see is the word cloud created from this particular effort. So as at the end of all of these efforts, we come up with top 10 hospitality and tourism 2030 trends. So let's see what they are. Number one, all the time we have heard about sustainable tourism. Number two is technology. Three is experience tourism, which also has roots in cultural and religious tourism, because experience tourism is actually one of the examples is always cultural and religious tourism. Number four is innovation, security and safety. Number five, personalization, from mass tourism to personalized tourism. AI, artificial intelligence and robots were number seven. Sharing economy with the Uber, Airbnb, and all these things, peer-to-peer, in other words, peer-to-peer economy. Alternative tourism, this is where cultural and religious tourism goes in there, along with family tourism, agriculture tourism, etc. And number 10 is wellness tourism, to be well-being, to be able to of course, that's part of it is health tourism as well too. So these are the top 10 hospitality and tourism trends, at least our hospitality and tourism found. So from this perspective, when you look at those individual 10 trends and also look at the world population to see what is going on, you are going to understand that today the world population is almost 8 billion people. And this increases every single second. This is from the meter that shows the births and the deaths. And then by 2045, we are going to be, by 2050, we'll be almost 9.3 billion people on Earth. So it's increasing rapidly. So when you look at within the schema of what I just told you about the numbers, the population in the world, if you excuse me, if you look at this busy slide, I just want you to focus on the top portion here, just to make a point. This is obviously international tourist numbers from World Tourism Organization. And here, if you look at this is of course before pandemic, just look at 1990. In the world, WTO predicted that we had 435 international tourists. So those are the tourists that come from one place to another country, travel. And if you look at the distribution of these international tourists between advanced economies and emerging economies, such as Turkey, India, China, such as, and it's 1/3 is from emerging economies and the 2/3, so the majority, big majority is from advanced economies. But when you come into 2015, the second year that we reach 1 billion number in international tourists, is now 1.1 billion people who traveled, but the distribution is almost half and half. So what does this tell us? That the world is getting more, the middle class in those emerging countries are becoming more middle class so that they can afford an international trip, as we have observed in China, India, and Turkey, many other, Russia as well too. So on those countries, which actually created something, some of the researchers call this over-tourism. Obviously, as you know, when the pandemic hit in 2020, over-tourism become no tourism, right? You see that, and a lot of people said, oh, you see, you were complaining from over-tourism, but now look what happened. Actually, this didn't change anything. Over-tourism is actually a concept that starts like just you see on the picture, the Great Wall in China, crowded. This is not even a crowded picture, but there are many heritage sites in the world are at risk due to mass tourism and global warming also too, not just mass tourism, but global warming. Here's a picture that I wanted to show you. Imagine that you are a tourist in this Great Wall in this particular given day. What would be your experience? I mean, of course, despite being inconvenient by so crowded, but would you really immerse yourself into this cultural site and really get what you're really supposed to get there? So here in this particular, and of course, this happens in Turkey as well too, as a country that has a rich cultural heritage and religious tourism sites as well too. When you look at here, that people actually even steal bricks from the Great Wall, not from the well-protected areas, but obviously Great Wall is so long that they are doing it as well too. So here is another site in Orlando, where I am not too far right now in Florida. So this is Magic Kingdom, one of the theme parks out of the 4 in Walt Disney World. And you can see again the crowdness here. This is another example, one extreme to another extreme. This is the same castle in Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney with nobody because of the pandemic. So we are seeing this all around the world. Venice in Italy were very always complained, the locals in Venice complained how many tourists come to Venice, and actually not because they come, but they destroy Venice. And they were just putting campaigns after campaigns and after together. And the Venetian actually municipality has created different campaigns. Now they are talking about, and we're going to talk in a second about this example, but they are using technology control to protect the cultural heritage in Venice. Here, they are trying to educate the visitors to do what to do, what not to do as well too. So again, this is an instant picture from Italy. You can see the amount of tourists here. So there is obviously a problem in many different sites. This is just one example, but this is not only example. There is so many. So we are having this question in our minds: ecology or protection or cultural heritage versus economy. So what do we need to do? Do we need to ban everybody not go to these cultural and religious heritage sites? Or should we have some kind of a balance? Actually, there is a way to balance. Of course, it will take a will from different stakeholders to do it, but there is different ways of doing it. Let's just look at this, how the tourism or the masses in reality impact the ecology. This is a short video clip that I wanted to show you.
Italy was Europe's first epicenter for the coronavirus outbreak, but now it's starting to reopen. Venice, one of the world's most famous cities, has suffered without its usual tourists, but it's enjoyed an unintended benefit. Chris Livesay traveled to the city of water to see how nature is suddenly flourishing.
Good morning. Now, as hard as the lockdown has been on all of us, there's one silver lining no one can deny. Staying at home has been largely good for the environment. And here in Venice, this lagoon city has returned to its pre-industrial tranquility. Venice, perhaps more than any other city under lockdown, has gone from one extreme to the other. The Rialto Bridge, the Grand Canal, even St. Mark's Square deserted. Streets and canals usually awash with tourists, now so still, nature is filling the void, says ecologist Marco Segovini.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there he is under the ropes. Oh my gosh, with babies. Nearby, an octopus beneath a dock, schools of fish and underwater life, and jellyfish like the one we spotted. Hardly any boats to scare them away or to churn up cloudy sediment. The transformation so dramatic, the European Space Agency snapped these satellite images, taken 1 year apart. Conspicuously absent, cruise ships. Last year, more than 600 passed through, their titanic size splashing corrosive wake on...
As you can see here in this video, the mass tourism has created a huge toll on, at least in this example, to Venice. And you can probably increase these examples from all around the world. One of the ways that can help us control the impact of tourism on cultural and religious sites are technology. So this is framed in the form of smart city. As you can see here, smart tourism is part of it, but there is a lot of different components. So when you think about a city or government or a country, in this particular, from agriculture to waste and recycling, to all these different aspects is possible. So smart city has a component, what we call is smart tourism. And here under the smart tourism, all of the components of tourism, restaurants, hotels, travel agencies, traveling, entertainment places, attractions where the cultural and religious sites go under. All of them are connected to each other to be able to create, again, remember the definition of technology and the definition of smart here. So if we put smart tourism, smart city, smart agriculture, what do we mean by smart? Smart means connected technologies that make decisions or take actions without manual input. So again, remember the idea here is that there are two different technology. One of them act or send signal to other one to be able to create stuff. So I'll give you some examples of this, what smart technology is. Of course, United Nations have sustainable development goals by 2030. We don't know how many of them are going to be done, but in all of them, that this smart technologies have a very important role. And for example, in smart city, making cities more livable, how do we do it? What is the technology that actually make something smart is what we call Internet of Things. If you were to look at here at this short video, that's going to explain what Internet of Things are.
The Internet of Things, or IoT, is influencing our lifestyle from the way we react to the way we behave. From air conditioners that you can control with your smartphone, to smart cars providing the shortest route, or your smartwatch which is tracking your daily activities. IoT is a giant network of connected devices. These devices gather and share data about how they're used and the environment in which they're operated. It's all done using sensors. Sensors are embedded in every physical device. It can be your mobile phone, electrical appliances, vehicles, barcode sensors, traffic lights, and almost everything that you come across in day-to-day life. These sensors continuously emit data about the working state of the devices. But the important question is, how do they share this huge amount of data, and how do we put this data to our benefit? IoT provides a common platform for all these devices to dump their data, and a common language for all the devices to communicate with each other. Data is emitted from various sensors and sent to IoT platforms securely. IoT platform integrates the collected data from various sources. Further analytics is performed on the data, and valuable information is extracted as per requirement. Finally, the result is shared with other devices for better user experience, automation, and improving efficiencies. Let us look at a scenario where IoT is doing wonders. In an AC manufacturing industry, both the manufacturing machine and the belt,
As you can see here, the smartness comes from the interconnectiveness. For example, if you're going to go and buy a refrigerator nowadays, you are going to find these kind of smart fridges. Again, the word smart comes from connectiveness, that this smart fridge is actually scanned inside, what's inside the refrigerator. If your milk, for example, is getting low, it will tell you, so it will text you. See, it's automatically will text to your device, so you're connected to your fridge. You can either get some more milk on the way back to the home, or you can even do it one more step, that you can even connect this smartphone into your grocery store, so you can even order that for you and it can come. So the sky is the limit in this one. It really has. This picture is from 2003 or 2004. I took this picture in the Microsoft Home of the Future at the Microsoft campus in Seattle. At that time, this was 25 years ago, Bill Gates actually created what we are talking today, what become actually reality today. So this kitchen scans all the ingredients that has an RFID tags, radio frequency identification tags, and then tells you what you can cook with the items at home. So let's say you come home, you don't know what to cook, you just scan in things without you have to go to the grocery store. This is just one example of this. Many, many different cities are using this in different forms. And I will show you some within the specific cultural and religious tourism context. But in terms of the smart city, this doesn't just help the tourists, but it helps everybody. These smart street lights actually can, of course, provide the light, so that's security, traffic information with the cameras, parking availability with the smart sensors that looks at the parking places, surveillance for, again, security, weather quality have sensors, and then send this to tourists and residents alike. And many, many cities in the world have been doing this. As you see, Chicago and Paris have implemented many, many different things. If you have one of these technologies and Eva, let's say a tourist or a resident is looking for a parking place, she would not lose time with the help of her smartphone. She would get actually spots in the city where she can park easily. Another example that increases the quality of life for handicapped people, that this smart wheelchair was talking to smart traffic light, so that then when this handicapped individual crosses the street, both of the devices talk to each other. It allows the person to actually pass this safely and securely. Because if you're a pedestrian, and if the light is turning into red when it's green, you can just rush, right? You can just go quickly, you can run. But if you are handicapped, it may not be the case. So this is just one example. There is many, many different things where actually we are seeing the Internet of Things or smartness in there. For example, in hotels and restaurants, we are seeing the weather sensors that are looking at the city so that when it's going to rain, these sensors understand when it's going to be rain. So when that time, then it does not water the greens. So you save a lot of water by doing that. Golf courses in everywhere are actually using these smart sensors. Instead of watering all these greens, you don't do it. Similarly, air conditioning is one example here that this is an old technology, split klima, very common in Turkey and elsewhere as well too. So the scientists actually thought about how we can make this more efficient, even though this says A++, but for big buildings, for big resorts, hotels, etc., is not. Actually, they looked at our cultural heritage. So this is the underground city in Turkey. As many of you know very well, that there are 7 floors. As you go down, one thing happens naturally, that it gets cooler and cooler. So in those ancient times, when they wanted to preserve food, they actually bring it down to the lower grounds so that it can naturally, it's kind of like a refrigerator, in a way, natural refrigerator. So from this mentality, they actually created the chiller plants. So what they do is that they take these water tanks, they put that under the earth, and then they put water there. That water automatically, naturally becomes cold. They push that cold water in the pipes and meet that with the hot air that comes from the building. Obviously, they make them so efficiently cool the big buildings as well too. There is many different applications of actually smartness, smart technologies in different. This one robotic eel is actually taking the water and analyzes it to see if it is good for drinking or for swimming for touristic destinations. There is more examples of this. So the Internet of Things is really changing everything. So let's switch now from general smart city, smart tourism applications, as you can see here, traffic flows, into some specific cultural and religious tourism examples. So as I told you in Italy, that they were so complaining about the over-tourism in many different places. Cinque Terre is another destination in Italy. It's beautiful village in the mountainside. And when the pandemic came, of course, they had no tourism, which allowed them to be able to see the impact of tourism on ecology, on the heritage sites. So it made them to think that what is it that we can do to actually fix this when the tourism come back? As you know, the pandemic is still around, but the tourism compared to last year has been much more active than last year. So this is an opportunity for people. What they are doing now is that if you want to go into, they control, instead of 2.5 million visitors in there, they would like to actually control that no more than 1.5 million visitors per year. So they actually do this, sell this with the help of an application and also some entrance point to the city. Is that the only solution? Obviously not. Here, the old town of Avila in Spain is another example. So what they are doing, actually conserving cultural heritage with technology. If you see this city.
Avila is a medieval city in the province of Castile-León in western Spain. Founded in the 11th century to protect the Spanish territories from the Moors, Avila has a magnificently well-preserved city wall, a historic cathedral, a number of Romanesque churches. The apse or head of the cathedral, known to the locals as the Cimorro, is embedded in the wall and thereby forms one of the strongest elements of the entire defensive structure.
As you can see here, this city is beautiful, full of cultural heritage, religious sites as well too. You have seen the old cathedral there. And they actually created a European project, Smart Heritage City, in partnership with Google. So they are using technology to monitor the cities of cultural and historical value. More than 200 sensors installed. They are just monitoring the state of the city if there is any impact by the tourists or residents for that reason. And they would like to also create this system to be able to collect data to understand the current problems and prevent the future ones. Another example of technology, how it can be used to protect cultural and religious heritage, is drones, obviously, and photogrammetry for architectural 3D rendering. So there is many different companies, SAYARC and Global Heritage Fund. By the way, it's sponsored by Google now. High-tech tools like ground penetrating radar, LIDAR, and drones to preserve heritage sites. So the 3D imaging tools and Batni Chamar, Cambodia, this is the one that you are seeing in the picture here. And this is, of course, top listed site for nomination to UNESCO's World Heritage List. And they have not done any restoration for 600 years. I am sure that you all heard of what happened to Notre Dame Church in Paris in 2019. Let's watch the fire that really burned an amazing and unbelievable cultural and religious heritage site.
The moment the spire of Notre Dame Cathedral fell into the raging inferno. For hours, flames engulfed this iconic landmark, destroying an 800-year-old building that had survived 2 world wars. Thousands gathered to watch as a piece of French history crumbled before their eyes.
Now, as you know, Notre Dame Church has burned. Thanks God, not the entire, but portions of it. So will we ever get back the same Notre Dame? No. That's obviously the answer. However, technology, digital imaging can be the only way if we can restore any of these things if we wanted to, if we could. So luckily, in 2015, they allowed, Notre Dame Church allowed scientists from Harvard, MIT, different universities to come and do a 3D laser rendering. So again, this is one way that we need to do this for all of the heritage sites, cultural and religious heritage sites, to be able to at least get the 3-dimensional model of those things. Again, this can be used in 2 things. One is in virtual reality. We can create a virtual reality model of that site. And the other one is that in case, God forbid, something like this happens, of course, as you know, in Syria, the war destroys everything. Or, you know, fire and earthquake and etc. Then we have at least something in our hand that is good. So you can see here how Notre Dame project was done in
new answers from them, really for the first time in the history of writing about Gothic architecture, to say things, I would say, with relative certainty. And so the way it works is I had to set up a network of targets, which are just geolocated points in space.
Yeah, that should be all right.
And you define the density of the scan, the resolution of the scan. In other words, how many X, Y, Z coordinate points in the space do you want to acquire? And then you let it rip. So what the laser scan actually does is it sends out a beam, and it measures the amount of time that it takes for the beam to be emitted from its little laser device to whatever it hits, and then the time that it takes to come back. So it's doing this at a speed of hundreds of thousands of times a second. Yeah, we're actually talking to the scanner. That's good. So it generates a whole cloud of data points that's extremely rich.
Now they are actually building Notre Dame Church back, rebuilding with this 3D lasering imprint that they have. Again, it will never be back to original, but it will be at least saved for next generations. So there is also many different sites have been done. So my recommendation to all governments or organizations that protect these cultural and religious sites is to be able to get these renderings. It's expensive, but it is possible. And of course, it gives us also the virtual reality component of it as well too. There is another one in Syria that they are doing this again to be able to protect them. Obviously, Syria and Iraq still at war has destroyed many cultural and religious sites, unfortunately. So Dome of the Treasure of Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, Syria has been done. You can actually go to this website that I just gave here to see this. This is the dome, and it's the three-dimensional creation of it. So again, what you see, I'm just playing with the website right now here that you can just click on and different components and get more in-depth view, maybe even a video, etc. So this is also one way to another example of how virtual reality can do it. And then you can imagine there is a lot of research needed that if we were to give the three-dimensional image, of course, if this mosque is destroyed, then this is the best thing that you can have left. But if not, if you were to see this in a virtual reality, do you want to visit this to see the real thing or not? So Google created this open heritage. Again, you can just see CR website right here. You can go, and they are doing this many different locations, and they are increasing the numbers to be able to create this 360 degree virtual reality models of these sites all around the world, not just one places. So speaking of this virtual reality, let's go into now augmented reality. I would like to show you a company from France called Le Petit Chef. This has nothing to do with cultural and religious heritage right now, but it may have. So what they do, what this Le Petit Chef is an augmented reality. So they augment into the restaurant. Let's see in this example video. So this is a restaurant in Paris. So the guests are sitting on the table, and now augmented reality allow the guests to enjoy the presentation of the meal. Nothing here. We have to put it on. So it's like a chef. He's getting the ice cream and people will show you how it works. We just did it like this to show you that this is one way. And for example, can this be used to preserve food culture and it's part of the culture, of course. And can you actually cook, for example, a recipe from Ottoman Empire, from all the history? Can we use this as a food culture preservation model? I didn't see any example of it, but I'll tell you that this model actually allows you to cook something at home. Let's look at this quick video.
Bonjour! Let me teach you how to flamber a steak in 3 easy steps. Step 1. Take some premium gasoline.
Petit chef, are you sure you should be using gasoline?
Excusez-moi. Do you see this chef's hat on top of my head? With the emphasis on chefs?
Yes.
Since I don't see you wearing one, so I wonder who would be the expert in cooking.
Okay, if you say so.
Don't worry, my big friend. I do this all the time. Okay, if you want to play it safe, how about you turn off the kitchen hood so it doesn't throw up the flame, you big safety nerd. You would think there is a big brain in such a big body, but I'm not so sure about it. Alors, step 2. Light the match and keep a safe distance. Attention, watch and learn. 1, 2, 3, c'est parti.
Of course, this is just one example how they are entertaining the guest, but this Le Petit Chef actually is creating this augmented reality systems to teach people how to cook French recipes. So in the cruise industry, here's one example where you are seeing that inside cabins. Again, for those of you been to cruises, you may know that some of the cabins do not have any windows or balconies. So here's how augmented reality can be used there.
Also wants to play with your senses in the stateroom. In this concept cabin, screens bring windowless space to life, complete with a fake balcony. Wake up to a sunrise and watch the room transform around you. Find tranquility in a rainforest where water dripping from the palms above falls to the floor. And who wouldn't want to sleep under a starry night sky, complete?
There are many, many examples of this. This can be utilized in cultural and religious sites. And virtual reality in Hilton.
Every day at the corporate office, we make decisions that impact the team members at the hotel. So we really needed to make sure that our corporate team members understand the complexity of working in a hotel. Oculus for Business has really shifted the way we work. We can truly upskill team members.
Here you see the example of virtual reality used in training for a hotel company, but you can actually do the same thing in like this. We are doing a research. Actually, this is our students are collecting data. They are showing our subjects the destinations, 4 different destinations. And what we are trying to achieve here is measure is to how much actually seeing a destination in virtual reality make you want to visit that place more, or maybe not. That's the idea. Similarly, lasers are used in everywhere, not only inside of cultural heritage, but also in different parts of the world, in cities even, in planning the cities, etc. So I have presented you several different technologies, but there is a lot of research areas. And I usually like to put this in there for those of you who are looking for some topics to study. First of all, we need a lot of technology acceptance studies for augmented reality, virtual reality, and also the impact of technology on cultural preservation is needed as well too. Comparison of real experience versus virtual experience in terms of this cultural and religious heritage sites. Imagine that you are asking somebody to come and visit a site in, for example, Cappadocia, the underground city. If they were to see this in virtual reality, in a very enhanced virtual reality, with augmentation, for example, will that actually make per people want to visit Cappadocia more or less? There is many, many studies needed. And there are some studies already, but not enough. We need more studies to be able to do that. Similarly, comparison of the real experience with the reconstructed experience, like in Notre Dame, if they have done studies before and after, how would that actually compare with each other? So when the technology helps us to reconstruct, does that really? And of course, the value of augmented reality and experience. I was in Çanakkale in a museum there. And then what I have seen in the Troy Museum is that they have augmented reality in the museum that shows you how that area looked like in the history. So you can see the people, ancient people going in there. So we need more studies like this to be able to see that if you augment the experience in cultural and religious sites, or even if you go into a mosque, for example, or church for that reason, if you were to, with the help of your smartphone, you can augment that to be able to see what it looked like. There is many examples of it in Rome. Colosseum is a good example. If you were to go there and hold your phone, you would actually see the Colosseum in full mode, not as it is right now. Of course, half of it is destroyed, but you would see. Does that really have help the experience of the tourists? And those are really, really great places. So I have promised that 45 minutes of the presentation. So in conclusion, I would like to tell you that technology, I teach technology at the University of South Florida, and I always tell my students that technology is taking some jobs, especially if we were to talk today about robots. Many of the hotels, restaurants in the world are switching humans with robots and kiosks and all these things. But yet, technology can really be a great help in different parts of hospitality and tourism industry. Sustainability, we have seen many great examples of how it actually can help save us and the earth here. Similarly, it can also do a lot in terms of preserving and making sure that the next generations will enjoy those cultural and religious sites as we do as well too. Thank you so much again for inviting me to this wonderful conference. I wish I really miss being in the conferences face to face, because it's not just about these presentations and other things that we do, networking outside of the conference room as well too. So, but you know, since we cannot be face to face, here's my contact information here in any way that you can prefer, from email to website to Facebook to Instagram. Please feel free to connect with me in one of these or more than one forms, and I'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you again. I would like to see at this time, if there is any question, I'll be happy to try to answer them if I can.
Mr. Çobanoğlu, thank you for your presentation, and we are extremely honored to have you here. Dear participants, if you have any questions, just you can write your chat or just a second. And also you can unmute your voice yourself.
Dear Professor Çobanoğlu, thank you very much for your keynote speech. You explained us how the technology can be used for protecting the cultural heritage or cultural heritage monumentals. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was an honor for us to host you, and we hope in the next year we will have a chance to have a keynote speech from you in Mardin face-to-face, and greetings to all of our participants from Upper Mesopotamia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor. I also, again, as I told you in the beginning of the conversation, I've never been to Mardin, would love to come in person, experience the culture, and of course, visit your university and program as well too. I wish you a wonderful conference and hope to see you. Maybe you can also invite you to Florida as well too. Please come and visit us here too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day and nice day. Thank you.